Andrew Jackson was born in Waxhaw, North Carolina. He was educated at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and was raised in a Presbyterian family. His main occupation before becoming the president was as a soldier. He was a prisoner of war during the Revolutionary War and won the Battle of New Orleans as a general. One of Andrew Jackson's first major encounters with domestic affairs occurred when South Carolina threatened to nullify the high tariff on imported goods. Henry Clay led this, and Henry Clay had previously robbed Andrew Jackson out of his first attempt at presidency, so this made it personal. The North was benefited by this tariff because of their manufacturing, but the South had no manufacturing plants. Jackson's response was he said he would march the entire army into South Carolina and hang Henry Clay. This showed that he had absolute power and made many people angry with Jackson. However, he was able to withhold the Union. This graphic is a representation of Andrew Jackson's dispute over a high tariff with South Carolina and Henry Clay. Andrew Jackson pushed through his most impactful bill when he passed the Indian Removal Act. It forced tribes such as the Cherokees, Chickasaws, Creek, and Choctaws to move off their land in the South in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee to undesirable land in the Midwest. These Indian tribes would have never made this move except for the bill. Many of these nations fought back with force. However, the Cherokees took this bill to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Cherokees. However, Andrew Jackson had other plans. He forced them to move, and on the Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears moved the Cherokees into the Midwest, and 1 in every 4 Native Americans on the trail died while being relocated. This map is a representation of the Indian Removal Act. It shows the Indians moving from their native lands in the South to the new reservations in the Midwest. These routes are part of the Trail of Tears, where 1 in every 4 Indians died. One of the first international incidents that Andrew Jackson had encountered was when he was a general, and he went into Florida to kill some pirates who had been raiding the Georgia settlements. Along the way, he had to fight Sentinel Indians. However, Florida still belonged to Spain, and the pirates were English, so it created a 3-party problem. However, by the end, Monroe resolved it, and nothing happened. Throughout Andrew Jackson's presidency, he continued to try to gain new lands for the United States. He really wanted to get the Texas territory from Mexico, so he sent in an army officer to start a rebellion from Mexico. The rebellion was successful, but after Texas had gained its independence, they wanted to remain a sovereign nation. However, Jackson intervened and gained Texas for the new nation. Many people view Andrew Jackson as a hero of war. He won many great battles as a general for the United States. As a president, he gained many lands for the United States, taking them away from the Indians and the Spanish. However, many view him as a tyrant because he overruled the Supreme Court's decision. During his time, the United States was debt-free, for the only time in U.S. history. However, what he did to the Indians, many deem as cruel.
Entirely new political party. What did he actually do as president? Well, let's go to the thought bubble. Let's start with nullification. So in 1828, Congress passed the Tariff of 1828 because they were not yet in the habit of marketing their bills via naming them with funny acronyms. Jackson supported this in spite of the fact that it benefited manufacturers. The tariff raised prices on imported manufactured goods made of wool and iron, which enraged South Carolina because they'd put all their money into slavery and none into industry. So unlike Northerners who could avoid the higher prices by manufacturing manufacturing sweaters and pants and such at home, South Carolinians would have to pay more. They were so angry at this tariff of abominations that the South Carolina legislature threatened to nullify it. Jackson didn't take kindly to this affront to federal power, but South Carolina persisted, and when Congress passed a new tariff in 1832, one that actually lowered the duties, the Palmetto State's government nullified it. Jackson responded by getting Congress to pass the Force Act, which authorized him to use the Army and Navy to collect taxes. A full-blown crisis was averted when Congress passed a new tariff in 1833 and South Carolina relented. This smelled a bit of dictatorship, armed tax collectors and all, and helped to cement Jackson's reputation as a tyrant, at least among the Whigs. And then we have the Native Americans. Much of Jackson's reputation there was based on killing them, so it's no surprise that he supported Southern states' efforts to appropriate Indian lands and make the Indians move. This support was formalized in the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which Jackson supported. The law provided funds to relocate Cherokees, Chickasaws, Choctaws, Creek, and Seminole Indians from their homes in Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, and Alabama. In response, these tribes adopted a novel approach and sued the government. And then the Supreme Court ruled that Georgia's actions in removing the Cherokees violated their treaties with the federal government and that they had a right to their land. To which Jackson supposedly responded by saying, "John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it." So Jackson set the stage for the forced removal of the Cherokees from Georgia to Oklahoma, but it actually took place in the winter of 1838-1839 under Jackson's successor, Van Buren. At least 1/4 of the 18,000 Indians died on the forced march that came to be known as the Trail of Tears. Boy, Thought Bubble, you do know how to end on a downer, but...
I would like to give a special thanks to John Green and Crash Course, the Miller Center, Mr. Gustalis, St. John Fisher, and YouTube. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.